Alright, today I wanted to go over a little bit more cabling information. I'm going to give you what I think might be useful. If you have any more questions or any examples that you want to go over, feel free to reply to this email or post in the group. I'll be more than willing to help anybody out with anything. So here I am. I was working on this swatch for the challenge and I legitimately don't know where I am on the chart. So I will show you how to find your way in the chart. Okay, so if you look closely at my knitting, I have on the back side my slipped stitch right next to the slipped stitch of the cable. So this is the slip stitch on the back side, and this is the slip stitch on the front side. So I have moved my cable all the way to the left, and my most recent round I have worked knit stitches. So if I look at this chart, I have moved my cable all the way left, which you can't see. I've moved the cable all the way left, and I've most recently worked knits. So I am here. Another thing you can do with this particular pattern is I find I sort of get in a rhythm. So say on the rounds where you have to just work straight, like a purl, purl, and then a slip, I usually get into a rhythm where I'm purl, 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 slip, purl, 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 slip. And sometimes I'm just doing that so quickly that I get off track. Well, if you think you might have gotten off track at all, the easiest way to figure that out is if you flip your knitting inside out, you will be able to tell if you've gotten off by one stitch if your slipped stitches on the back don't line up. So you want to check for that every once in a while if you think that you've gotten off some. I just think back in that case, but if it's well in the back and you don't care about reversibility, then don't worry about it. But that's a good way to find your spot. So as you can see, you can kind of, with the highlights, see how the chart mimics the knitting. So once you know that the chart mimics the knitting and you would want to change this pattern at all, I will show you how you can do that. Here's an unmarked up copy of our chart. So I'm going to quick show where we've already been going. Remember that you follow these slipped stitches and cross with the cables. Okay, so if, for example, you didn't want it to go all the way across, you could change that in your pattern. If you want the changes of the direction of the cables to be closer and you don't want to work this ribbing in between, you don't need to do that either. And as far as seeing what it looks like, I do find it the best to make a swatch and to look at it, because sure, I understand what's going on here, but as you can see with a chart, it's way bigger than the knitting. So, you know, it doesn't translate exactly, obviously, because those squares are huge compared to my knit stitches. So it does help to make a swatch, and with the squishy cabled hats that I made, I did swatches of all the different patterns that I made. Ended up liking some of them, ended up hating some of them. So it is best to make a swatch before you do like an entire piece of work, because then you'll just have wasted time. Here you could also increase the ribbing in between. So say you want some more squishiness in this particular pattern, you can mark up the chart. So again, the ribbing part is basically this. You get a purl, a slip, a purl, a purl. And then the knit is a slip in front and then just knits. So it's really messy, but you get my point. So if you want to add more ribbing, this 2-round repeat is all you need to add in. So you can either take out a section of the cables or, just put this in additionally. So a good place that I think, let's see, we could extend it here. So here you would just put knits instead. And the only thing you'll need to remember is as you change the symbols in the chart that the movement isn't going to stay the same unless you leave it the same. So for example, here we've got the slip stitch chain running this way, and it's going to curve to the left because of the left cross. So once we turn these back into knit stitches, it's not going to cross. So the slip stitch will be right here. And you don't need to worry about, if you could tell, you don't need to worry about the knit row, because the knit row always stays the same. See, it's always slipped, knit, 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 slip, knit, knit, knit. So that is what you're getting on the wrong side, and you won't have to worry about changing that. So we're only working on the right side, and that is what happens on the purl rows. The only thing that moves on the knit side is the cables, so those are where you put your cables. As you can tell, the knit rows are just a slipped stitch and then 3 knits, and it doesn't change, because that's what you get on your wrong side. That's where you just get the squooshy rib and you don't have to deal with anything else. The only thing that goes on that side as well is your cables. So you will be moving your slipped stitches on your purl rows if you move them, and then your cables go on your knit rows. So if we do this, then we've got our slip stitch coming up this way. So we could either take out this cable, or we'll just simply move it over. So it goes like this. And we'll be putting a knit at the end here. Okay, and so this will be then, I'm sorry, it's hard to see, but this will be a left cross. So I'll highlight that in a second. And then that will move our slipped stitch, kind of like chutes and ladders. It'll move it up here. So I'm going to put a purl here. Oh, let me highlight that. Okay, so then, and this is our old line here, but instead, because we don't have our cross here, we're going to be going straight up and to the left here and then up. And then here we have a right cross from the old, and that's not going to work for us because it's not going to move the correct position. But if we want to leave a cable there, we could exchange it for the left cross, and that will move it to the left. If we want to keep it a right cross, then we would need to move it over so that it would move it this way. And basically, I mean, it's like a game of chutes and ladders, honestly. So you just want to be following your line of slip stitches and see where your cables move which direction. You could find this PDF with the original chart and the blank space in today's email. So this is the original chart for the headband. So I'm going to quick highlight it up again, show where our slip stitch is going. So now we're going to take a look at what we can do to alter the chart in case we want to make something different. Alright, so looking closely at our original chart, I've already gone over some of the things about how we see the slip stitch moving and how the background is basically garter stitch. So if you want to keep that up, you can keep that up. If you want to change it, we could try to change it to a stockinette background. That's something you could investigate. The only thing with that is you're not going to get the reversibility, but you basically have a reverse stockinette back with a slip stitch. So it's interesting. So let's try to mock something up quick. We'll just say maybe we want a little bit more ribbing at the start. So let's do one extra repeat of ribbing. So we're going to do this. All right. So here we have our slip stitch right here. And in our original chart, we did a left cross. So we could move it to the right this time. We could continue to move it to the left. Let's do a right this time. So the right cross, we're gonna start here because this is the slip stitch. So we're gonna, the way I draw my cable, especially with the twists, if you look at the symbol, it's actually just a line from corner to corner in the direction of where it's going. So instead of trying to make this crazy looking X thing, if you just think about it as corner to corner, corner to corner in the direction that you're trying to go. So if I'm going to go to a right cross, here is where I'm starting because that's my slip stitch, and I'm just going to go to the corner. My slip stitch is there, corner, and down for the back. So I've moved this now. The next round, oh, we need this in here, right? So this never changes. So honestly, you could just take this and put this all the way up. Okay, so if you look, we've taken the slip stitch and we've moved it over to the right. So now our next round with the slip stitch is going to be here, and then our pearls. So let's say we want to work some more ribbing in between there. That's a row. We're going to put our slip stitch here, slip stitch here, slip stitch here, and now we want to move that slip stitch maybe back to the left. So again, to draw, we just starting corner to corner. So we're going corner, corner, line, line. And now we've effectively moved that slip stitch over here. Okay, so you can put in your pearls. We could also move the cables closer together. So let's say in this next one we want to quick move it right back. So we can do another right cross, and then our slip stitch will be right there. So we could try that. Maybe we could do that a bunch, real quick twists. That might be interesting looking. Again, you'll definitely want to swatch with these. Who knows what they actually look like in knitting. The blocks of a chart are usually way bigger than an actual stitch, so you won't know until you actually try it. I've had a lot of trial and error with a lot of these patterns, so just test it out. So we're just kind of wiggling this back and forth. Maybe we can make it go all the way to the corner again. And then maybe back to the middle for the end. And And you could certainly make this chart shorter or longer. I only kept it the same length because it is a headband, so I didn't want it to be so thick that it doesn't resemble a headband anymore. But that is essentially how you play with your charts, and you can make your own pattern. So now if we quick highlight this out, this one is going to go up in the ribbing, right cross, up in the ribbing, left cross, right cross, left cross, left cross, right cross. So that's interesting looking. Not sure how it would look knit. And then you want to remember that for this particular pattern, this column 3 is actually the center. This is the center. So if you're gonna go back into the standard ribbing, you'll want to end in the 3rd column with the slip stitch, because that's like the typical ribbing. Yeah. So if you have any questions about that, or want to mock up your own pattern and I could do anything to help you with it, let me know. We can go over some other things. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of how you could alter a cable pattern with what we're already been working with.